The story of the Clampett family began in the humble hills of Tennessee, where a man named Jeb, a poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. Life was simple and arduous, marked by the daily struggle to put food on the table. One fateful day, while Jeb was out shooting at some food, his bullet struck a vein of fortune. Up through the hard, unforgiving ground came a sudden, bubbling geyser of crude oil. It was black gold, or as the locals might call it, Texas tea. With this discovery, the life of old Jeb shifted overnight, and the first thing you know, he was a millionaire. His kinfolk, seeing the sudden shift in their fortune, urged him to change his circumstances. They told him that California was the place he ought to be, a land of promise and sunshine. Heeding their words, they loaded up the old family truck and embarked on a journey that would take them far from the mountains they knew. They moved to Beverly Hills, that is, a place defined by swimming pools and movie stars. They were the Beverly Hillbillies, a family of simple folk suddenly thrust into the center of a world that moved at a pace they had never before imagined. Upon arriving at their new, sprawling mansion, the family stepped out into their new life. "Howdy, Duke and Miss Duke," Jeb called out to his companions, announcing that they were home to stay now. Despite the change in location, they sought to maintain the closeness that had defined them in the hills, hoping they would not be lonesome no more. Inside the mansion, the reality of their new life began to set in. "Look, Jeb, I still say we had not ought to have moved out of that bank building," one of the kin remarked. "Well, boy, what is done," Jeb replied calmly, accepting the permanence of their transition. The young man persisted, noting that he was just getting his psychiatry business going good. "Why, yesterday alone I cured 5 mother haters," he boasted, proud of his unconventional method of getting them back to loving their mothers. Jeb contemplated this for a moment and mused that perhaps the true practice of psychiatry was here at home all along. Meanwhile, Granny had her own plans for her professional life. She intended to go on with her dentistry. She asked Jeb which room he wanted her to put her dentistry in, and after a brief deliberation, she decided she would just let them bolt it down to the bed of the truck. When asked if she really figured a practice here on the truck would work, she scoffed, asking why not. She knew how people hated to go to the dentist, and she reasoned that this way, the dentist would go to the people. She was convinced that folks were ready, willing, and anxious for this kind of curb service dentistry. Why, she claimed just driving along, the minute folks seen this chair, their mouth just fell open. In a different part of the house, Bobby Joe was having trouble with her communication efforts. "No, still no answer at the Clampetts," she lamented. She had been trying for 6 days to call those people and hated to just drop in on them, but she was worried about missing her plane connection to Los Angeles. A suggestion was made to send a telegram instead. "That is a good idea," she agreed, planning to state that she had been trying to get them for some time, that she had won a contest for selling the most soybeans, and her prize was a trip to Hollywood, with a promise to call on arrival. She thanked the others for minding the store for her, promising to be back first thing Monday morning. She was assured that they would have it all cleaned up by then. When she expressed surprise, she was informed that they were having a little party there Saturday night. In the store, she asked, concerned about the logistics. The refreshments were so handy, they argued. When she asked how many were coming, she was told 11 fellas and 11 girls, totaling 22 teenagers. She was assured that they would keep track of everything they ate, though the question of who would chaperone this bash led to the mention of Uncle Joe, which prompted them to joke that they should never mind the 22 teenagers, but just keep track of what he ate. As the plans unfolded, Cannonball was waiting for Bobby Joe, and the 8-ball was waiting for another. But then one of them changed their mind and decided they were not going. "Oh, Mr. Jocker, please," someone pleaded, "you will have a wonderful time, and you will even get to see your sweetie again." "Oh, now, do not start with Granny," came the rebuttal. "We're just friends." "Oh, sure," the others teased, comparing them to famous couples like Romeo and Juliet, Dick and Liz, or Sam and Granny. They reminded the reluctant traveler that he was going to miss his plane, so he agreed to just send the telegram. The message was prepared for Sam, addressed to Granny Clampett. They drafted the note. "Have been trying to get you for some time. Am coming to Hollywood for my prize. Will call on arrival. Sam Jocker." With the message sent, attention turned back to the physical labor of setting up the household. The dentistry chair was a heavy piece of equipment. "Phew, this thing has got to weigh a ton," one of them remarked, noting it was a real finger curler. They wondered where to put it, and Granny directed them to the parlor, right in front of the fireplace. "But, Granny, that is a court and parlor," they protested, noting that it would not look too romantic having a dentist chair sitting in there. Granny remained unfazed, suggesting that with all the courting that was going on in that parlor, they could have an electric chair in there and it would still serve its purpose. When they worried about what Ellie Mae might think regarding her young gentleman callers, Jeb asked when Granny was going to face the truth. He suggested that girl was too old to get a husband, though he did not agree with his own assessment, as he was her father. He recalled his own old granny back in Tennessee having a saying, 13 and 14, a girl is in her prime. 15 and 16, she still has time. 17 and 18, she is just about done. 19 and 20, her paw needs a gun. Regardless of the philosophy, the chair was moved into the parlor as ordered. Later, the telephone rang and it was Granny, receiving the news of the telegram. The postman had been trying to read it to her, which she found improper, insisting that he get the message up to her quickly. She eventually learned it was from a Mr. Sam Drucker in Hooterville. "Sam Drucker," she exclaimed, "he is my sweetie." She was congratulated, and the message was read to her. "Have been trying to get you for some time." "That is the truth," she noted, recalling that he had proposed by mail once, but she had always borne it in a letter. The message continued that he was coming to Hollywood for his prize. That bold rascal, she chuckled, coming to carry her off. She decided it would not be that easy. He would have to court her first. The message concluded that he would call on arrival. "That is a good joke on Sam," she said, because she did not intend to tell him where she was arriving. Her motto was to keep them guessing. She believed that once they got to thinking they were the only rooster in the hen house, you were in trouble. Her old granny back in Tennessee had a saying that men are like mules if you, but the conversation was cut short. The dentistry chair in the parlor continued to be a point of contention. "Get that thing out of here," someone complained, reminding everyone that this was a courting parlor. Granny snapped back, wondering who was talking about that child, as there was going to be some grown-up courting in there now that Sam Drucker was coming to town. She dismissed the concerns about Ellie Mae, noting that her grandfather had another saying, "Old violins make the sweetest music, though of course, you have to have the right bow." It was a witty saying, Jed remarked, though he noted it was not too witty. "Well, it beats whale doggies," he concluded. The household dynamics continued to shift. Mae was playing with fire, and she was warned that it was dangerous. "But, Pa, I am cooking with it," she replied. She was making a bag of donuts for Jed and Jethro. When they saw her taking them out with a crowbar, they were amazed, but she explained that this fork just was not stout enough for the lift because donuts had a lot of body to them. When she offered one to her father, he noted that he liked to have a cup of coffee with his donut. She informed him she had made some, but he suggested he liked to have his coffee and his donut after his meal. She surprised him with one of her surprise loaves, and he and the others helped her lift it out of the oven. It was clear that Granny was losing her hold on the kitchen, and it was all on account of her getting married to Sam Drucker. Jethro and Ellie were concerned that if Granny married Sam and he took her off to Hooterville, they would starve to death. "That is a terrible way to go," Jethro noted, though the prospect of eating Ellie's cooking was, in his mind, an even worse way to go. He suggested they not start swimming until they hit water, as Sam Drucker was not there yet, and they did not know for certain that he was going to propose. However, the others were convinced he meant business, especially since Granny said he was even ready to take on his rival. The telephone rang again. It was Dash, wanting to take Ellie for a drive. Ellie was upstairs, but the caller was told it sounded like a dandy idea and to come on by. Dash Riprock had a new car, and Jethro wanted to see it. Shortly after, Miss Jane arrived with Sam Drucker. After introductions and some pleasantries, Sam asked about Granny. He was told that the little woman was gone all the time, caught up in one date after another. The men just would not leave her alone. They called her the Beverly Hills Butterfly, a late thing of the stars. It was claimed she only came home to change clothes and fellas. If it were not for the old hound dog Duke, they would never have found her, as they would have him sniff one of her dancing slippers to start the chase all over the Sunset Strip. Just then, Dash Riprock arrived in his big car. The family observed that he was an old diehard. When Jethro remarked on his age, it was revealed he was 68 years old, having just had a birthday. They marveled at how he looked so young, attributing it to makeup. When he leaves the movie studio at night, half of him stays in the dressing room, they joked. Sam Drucker was introduced to Dash, and after a brief, awkward interaction, Jethro pulled Dash aside to talk to him. He explained that Sam Drucker was there to court Ellie Mae. Dash was confused, asking about the older man courting the young girl, and Jethro confirmed that they did not really court in the way the city folks might expect. When Dash expressed interest in riding with Ellie, he was encouraged to go, and Jethro felt he had successfully maneuvered to keep the suitors apart. Later, Granny met with Sam, and she teased him about his telegram. She was enjoying her popularity and the attention of the movie stars. She suggested that Jack give Sam a room toward the back of the house so that the noise of the sports cars coming and going all night would not keep him awake. They wanted to ensure he was not too near the cement pond, which was noisy with the sounds of people splashing around. Back at the bank, Mr. Drysdale was monitoring the situation. He was told about the friend of the Clampetts arriving, and he was curious if the man had any money. He was informed that Sam Drucker owned the Bank of Louisville and had won a contest, the prize being a trip to Hollywood. Drysdale was suspicious, fearing that this jerk-water Jesse James was there to take Jed Clampett's money out of his bank. As the day progressed, Sam and Jed caught up. Sam had only been there for about 5 minutes, and Jed teased him that he was giving him more time than the others. Granny continued to boast about her suitors, mentioning the night that Bull Montana was there. The family tried to keep the front gate locked, but the allure of Hollywood remained strong. Granny, seemingly caught up in the fantasy of her life, told Sam she was burnt out with the wild nightlife, though she continued to play the role of the love goddess. In a climactic moment, Jethro burst in, shouting that the Lone Ranger was riding up the driveway. Granny was ecstatic, as he was her hero. The chaos reached a peak as the family managed to navigate the conflicting egos of their suitors, with Dash eventually being persuaded to take out Ellie instead of Granny. As the evening drew to a close, they gathered together, the confusion of the day settling into a peaceful, if eccentric, harmony. They had navigated the complications of fame, romance, and the transition from mountain life to the heart of Beverly Hills, remaining a family at their core. As the stars came out over the mansion, the family sat together, reflecting on the day's events. They knew that whatever tomorrow might bring, whether it was another suitor for Granny, a new business venture for the kin, or a surprising meal from Ellie,